The Dallas Cowboys got a season-changing win in Week 7. We'll break it down next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. And on today's show, we're talking about the Cowboys' big win over Washington. We're going to talk about the Cowboys' defense, which really stepped up. We'll talk about CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. But first of all, Landon, this felt like kind of a season-altering win. And we talked about this on Friday. You lose this game and you drop to 2-4-1. It's going to be really hard to bounce back with their upcoming schedule. But at 3-3-1 with Washington and now the Giants behind you in the division, feels like you're doing okay after 7 games.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too that to kind of specifically point to is it's the way that you won the game, right? And the manner in which you won the game. This was a very balanced win, which is shocking and surprising considering the state of where the team was going into this game. Obviously, we expected the Cowboys offense to explode with the re-addition of CeeDee Lamb and Booker back into the lineup. But I don't think any of us kind of expected the sort of major changes that we saw on the defensive side of the ball, from personnel to scheme to a bunch of different stuff, and all of it working as successfully as it did. So I do think that this kind of changes the angles in a lot of different ways, because it's funny you said season changing, because they changed everything from you saw so far this season on defense. It really was a huge change. So yeah, it does kind of make you reevaluate where this team is. You look around the rest of the landscape of the NFC and the rest of the landscape of the NFC East, and you think, the Cowboys still have a chance here for sure.
Yeah, you just wanted to, stay in the hunt by at least Halloween. And regardless of what happens next week against Denver, you will be. Like, you're going to be in the mix with things in the NFC, and that's what we were hoping for. Let's talk about some other things from this game. The Cowboys win 44-22. The offense scored 17 points in the first quarter. I think it was 10 points in the second quarter, 17 in the third quarter. And yet there were times in this game that I felt like the offense stalled a little bit. They had a chance to really put Washington out of their misery, and they couldn't quite do that. And I think that just goes to show our expectations for this Cowboys team.
I was going to say,
any possession that doesn't end in a touchdown feels like a major disappointment.
Which it shouldn't, because that's a ridiculously high bar to hold a team to. The performance that the Cowboys offense put out there tonight was absolutely ridiculous, incredibly impressive. And I think a lot of it is, like you said, the standard that has been put out there. But I think we asked ourselves, after seeing what this offense had done the last few weeks without CeeDee Lamb, well, how could it possibly get better once CeeDee Lamb gets back? And I think we got the question answered pretty quickly. You basically had both receivers teetering on almost 100 yards receiving in the first half, and you almost had I think it was like 70 yards rushing while your lead back, before halftime. So I think that, considering the fact that we thought that we were going to need to score a touchdown on every single drive in order to win the game, I think they didn't quite keep up to that pace, obviously. But I think overall, when you just look at the performance that they were able to put out there, just ridiculous what this Cowboys offense is doing right now.
And what I really meant, there was a point in this game in the second quarter where the Cowboys were up 17-8 after the 74-yard touchdown to CeeDee Lamb, which that was quite the play. Yeah. They got the ball back again. They were up by 9 points. And then they went 6 plays, 21 yards punt. The defense got off the field. They stopped the Commanders on 4th down. And then it was 8 plays, 11 yards field goal. The defense had a 3-and-out on the next possession. 6 plays, 11 yards. You just felt like with the defense getting 3 consecutive stops, going back to the end of the first quarter, like that was a chance to really put them away. It didn't happen, but eventually the talent won out for the Cowboys offense, because there was a stretch later on in this game where they went touchdown, field goal, and that was it.
I think the reason it didn't really feel like it was ever in jeopardy is because even the situations in which the Cowboys weren't able to convert or score touchdowns, it was usually because of very questionable penalties that felt like kind of
or just
keeping it
mental
close.
mistakes, like
Yeah,
Jalen
like
Tolbert making a hold, or Jaden Blue false start, stuff like that.
yeah. So I think the two holding penalties, which on the edge, and then obviously the false start. There's no way around that. But like and then I think they obviously the safety that that kind of is it really just made it look like this was a closer performance than it was. But you feel like, man, if their special teams doesn't put the ball right on the 1 yard line, you don't even really notice a negative 2 yard run as much as obviously you did there. So, but overall, I think outside of negative plays where Cowboys got penalties or were just running the ball for putting themselves behind the sticks a little bit early, they were mostly just dominant on almost every single drive, and it just felt like it was inevitable that they were going to break through at the end.
Let's talk about Dak Prescott in this game. 21 of 30 for 264 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also had a couple big runs in this one to keep the chains moving. I thought there were times where he was a little bit antsy in the pocket. He was, taking some hits that he didn't need to take. But again, you're talking about very minor criticisms for a guy that has his 4th game this year of 3 or more touchdowns with no interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, he's the MVP right now, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I feel like I've watched enough of NFL football to kind of go and see the other key players, and I think Daniel Jones is doing some interesting things with the Colts, well. But I just think as far as level of difficulty and what he's being asked to do and the way he's performing just consistently week to week, I just think Dak Prescott's playing better than anybody else in the NFL.
He just has total command. This is the bet. It reminds me a lot of 2014 Tony Romo, where he's healthier than what Romo was. Again, knock on wood, during that year. But Romo got to a point where there was just nothing that he hadn't seen before, and he just knew where everybody was going to be at. And that team had a more talented offensive line. This team has way better playmakers than what that offense had.
Yeah, and I think the offensive line's getting better too. Like that, and since it's so young, as it gets better, that group's going to continue to get better. Which was actually the opposite kind of situation with the other Cowboys, right? As it felt like that offensive line started to get older and older. This offensive line is incredibly young, so you hope that maybe they can continue to age and get better, even better as the season goes on, which it would be ridiculous.
All right, so we're going to talk about the Cowboys defense in just a little bit, but sitting at 3-3-1. You and I kind of had a conversation a couple of weeks ago that if you were going to go out and make some trades and be aggressive, you needed to be at least 4-2 after the first 6 games. After the first 7 games, you're 3-3-1, so maybe a little bit behind pace. But I think because the NFC has so many teams in that, 3.5 to 5 win range, you really do feel like you're in the thick of things. I know their schedule gets hard, but I do like that the Cowboys have managed to kind of stay afloat here.
I also think that back half of the schedule doesn't look quite as daunting as it did before the season. I think that some of these teams that you've seen, Denver is going to be a tough game. I'm not trying to imply that, but it does feel like they, especially after what we saw with the Giants, that it doesn't look like they're unbeatable in Denver, and some of these other games. So I do think that it's just the angles of all this and the wins and losses that you have marked down preseason, right. They're going to change just because of the way that all these teams have changed.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys defense, which was absolutely incredible here in week 7. We'll break it down next. This episode is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a service. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. And by uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, the busy work, in silos your software that you've created. And right now you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling, rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That is rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun and simple way to add more excitement to your football season. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you are in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. Plus, they've just added stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, I can select their passing yards, rushing yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys defense, because I couldn't have been happier about their performance in this game. And it really started off right away. 3 plays, 2 yards, punt. They did give up a touchdown drive on the second drive of the game. 7 plays, 65 yards, touchdown. Then they went 3 plays, 9 yards, punt. 6 plays, 19 yards, punt. 7 plays, 44 yards, turnover on downs. 3 plays, 3 yards, punt. That stretch right there is what defined the game. We were hoping that Dallas would get 2 or 3 stops. To get, 4 stops in a row? That's what won them this game.
Yeah, and I think we have to address like all the changes that seemingly were made on the defense, and I think it starts with the personnel, right? Like they ended up kicking Bland back inside to nickel, and then we actually got to see a different starting lineup of corners this week. And I think that giving Elam and Bridges a chance on the outside. And then I think it wasn't just those things separately. On top of that, they also played a lot. Like, to say that they played a lot more man coverage would be a disservice. They basically flipped the percentages, it feels like. I mean, at the very least, it seemed like, and again, this is based on eyes. I don't have any numbers right yet, but it seemed like they were playing easily more than 50 or 55, 60% man coverage, it felt like. So, and I think it had to, I think, that is not unrelated to the lineup changes that you saw and cornerback situation. And then on top of that, because you didn't have Wanye Thomas in there, you also had to start Marquise Bell and Elijah Clark. Yeah. They both basically ended up playing a lot of football. So I think all those lineup changes had an effect. And then you also saw a big, huge uptick in Shamar James's snaps at linebacker, for better or worse at times, it felt like. But it felt like all of those things. And then on top of that, an increase in blitzing as well. All the kind of things that I feel like we have been talking about, like, let's get the youth in there. Let's run more man coverage. Let's blitz a little bit more. And guess what? It all worked tonight. And it felt like it gave the Cowboys the edge than they needed. Washington felt like even when they were getting opportunities that they were disjointed, they weren't sure what they were seeing, because I think Cowboys threw some uncertainty into the whole situation. And they were able to do all of this while limiting what was an incredible Washington run game going into this week. And they were able to hold Bill under 4 yards a carry, which I think was really impressive considering everything he's done so far in the NFL.
Yeah, I love the blitzing, because I thought going into this game with Washington having their top 3 receivers out, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Noah Brown, you wanted to speed things up for Jaden Daniels and eventually Marcus Mariota, which we can get to. And yeah, you might get beat down the field, but with young receivers in the game, with a quarterback that they probably haven't worked with, you can just throw the timing off. And that's what we saw in this game is, Daniels made some plays with his legs. He connected with Zach Ertz across the middle of the field a couple times. It happens, but you got sacks. You got some throws that were, just a little bit off target, not a ton, but just a little bit enough, just to get some incompletions. And I think with the Cowboys still struggling to get a pass rush, and we'll talk about some guys that had a good game. I think blitzing and just living with the results is the way for this team to go. And I know that's not Matt Eberflus's bread and butter, but I think it's going to have to be this year.
Yeah, I also think it helps that it really feels like Jaden Daniels just is not the same athlete right now. And then obviously he ended up getting hurt as the game went on, but he didn't seem nearly as explosive or just willing to run the football in opportunities. He wanted to try to win the game with his arm, but he wasn't good enough as a passer in this game to win. So, yeah, I think the Cowboys pressed the issue with the blitzing. And I think, there were 2 or 3 plays maybe where you saw Jaden pick up some first downs with his legs. But outside of that, he didn't really hurt you that way. So, yeah, the Cowboys were able to take advantage of the fact that they were trying to throw for first downs and they had inferior receivers out there. And it wasn't exactly great design at different points. No. So Cowboys were able to do what they needed to do to get off the field consistently. I mean, besides getting turnovers, obviously a pick 6 as well. They forced, I think it was 4 or 5 punts, and then at least 2 turnover on downs. So they did a really good job of getting off the field when they needed to at times, which obviously is a big change from what we've seen.
Well, 2 takeaways: the Bland interception, the Shamar James forced fumble on the play that Jaden Daniels got hurt, and then you talked about the 4th down play where they got off the field as well. That's going to be the key, like finding ways to steal a possession or 2. This Cowboys offense is so good that if you can get 1 or 2 extra possessions, that's how you're going to win these games. I want to talk about Daron Bland because, yes, he had the pick 6, which is obviously nice, 6th of his career, and you could see it coming the whole way. Like as soon as that ball got floated up, Bland was picking that off. I thought Bland was playing really well in this game, even before that play happened. He made a couple of big plays in run support. He made a big tackle on Jaden Daniels that set up one of those 4th downs. There was a play on a key 3rd down where he was covering Ertz across the middle of the field that forced a 4th down because of an errant throw. This is the healthiest Bland has looked in several, actually probably back to 2023.
Yeah,
and you see why the Cowboys want him around.
Yeah, and look, we haven't really had a whole conversation about the Trayvon Diggs situation yet, but going into next week, it's going to be interesting because I do think that you found something in. And look, I wonder if maybe before the game when they announced that he was going to start at the nickel spot, I wondered if it wasn't about the fact that you felt like the biggest threat from Washington was going to be coming out of the slot now that you have no Terry McLaurin and no Deebo Samuels, right? Yeah. So I wondered if that was why that they decided they wanted to play him more inside and kind of start the other guys outside. But honestly, just watching him operate out there, he just needs to play more in the slot. Like it's just like he's just really good there, and in a way that a lot of other guys are. The way he tackles, the way he covers. I just think that they need to give him more opportunities to kind of collapse inside when they have 3 corners out there. But yeah, I also think that really good performances from Bridges and I thought from Elam as well, considering everything that we've seen from them so far. I thought it was a real step up for them. I don't know if it's reliable. Maybe you figure out a situation where you rotate him with Diggs or something, but at least they looked more comfortable playing the amount of man coverage that they were playing.
Yeah, and Elam got kind of a bogus penalty at the end of the game. Otherwise, I thought he played decent. And maybe that's just Elam's roles. He's going to be your 3rd outside corner, and he comes in with injuries. I think that's probably a better spot for him anyways, rather than being a full-time starter. A couple guys I wanted to mention really quickly. Jadavion Clowney didn't play a ton of snaps in this game, but this was easily the best game that he had. A couple of passes that he deflected at the line of scrimmage. He made a tackle in the backfield. He had a sack. I still don't know if he's a full-time player because of his age at this point, but man, if you can get anything like that again from Jadavion Clowney, defense might be okay.
You're getting positive snaps from him, which is great. And I think the same could be said for Donovan Ezra, who I feel like took another step this week, got his first sack. I think he's played really well against the run as well. I think, he's starting to come on a little bit. I don't know if you're really ready to give him all the full-time snaps, but he's at least a guy that you're definitely not going to be skipping in the rotation. He's going to be a featured guy, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, Ezra, I mean, you can see it. Now, he got a sack that was a little bit of a cleanup sack on Sunday, but making plays in the run game, starting to bend the edge a little bit. Usually these guys, it takes a season or so before they kind of grow into that role. You're starting to see the flashes from Donovan Ezra, which is super, super encouraging. You know what's also encouraging is the Cowboys have 2 number 1 receivers that are pretty doggone good. Let's talk about their performances next. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same attention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make your everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and incredible controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because they give you so many different ways you can bet, including parlays, same game props. I love the futures market. I can't wait to go see what the Cowboys' odds are to make the playoffs this year. It's all available on FanDuel. And whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast, 2 shows every single day, 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's talk about the Cowboys receivers in this game. 14 official targets, because there's some penalties in there. CeeDee Lamb, 5 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown, including a 74-yard touchdown. George Pickens, though, was actually probably the better receiver today. 4 catches, 82 yards on 6 targets. Also drew a 37-yard pass interference call that set up a 1-yard Javonte Williams touchdown. I thought these guys were incredible today.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what you saw from Pickens and Lamb today is why you feel like you really do have a chance, and even with the record on the low end of kind of in the hunt playoff teams, right? You just look at what you're able to accomplish when both of those guys are in the lineup, and then you add in obviously a very effective run game, and then I think Ferguson has just become an incredible weapon in the red zone, just with all the attention that's being drawn on the outside. He was 7 for 7 for only 29 yards, but that's because he also caught 2 very short touchdowns and scored. So, yeah, I just think that the passing attack is just absolutely shredding teams, and it doesn't really matter the down and distance. It feels like the Cowboys can convert even when they get behind the chains at times, that you just feel like the 3rd and 12s. It does. It feels back like Romo, right? Like back with the old 2014 Romo teams, 2014, where it just felt like, oh, well, we're behind the chains, we'll just pick it up on 3rd down. It's like that's how good and consistently overperformant the offense is. And I think now that Lamb is back and he looked 100%, he didn't look like he was restricted at all. Pickens is settled into the role a little bit that he's settled into, and it's a very effective role where he's going to continue to score touchdowns. He didn't have any today, but you just feel like, man, he's just going to continue to score touchdowns on the outside with all the attention that's going to be drawn inside by Ferguson and Lamb. It's the offense is just cooking at a level, and it just all fits together. And the word that I kept on thinking was, man, this is an incredibly balanced offense in all directions. Run, pass, sideline to sideline, inside to outside, front to back. Like, they can attack you in any different way. They can solve any different problem you present in front of them. Like, this is the offense that Dak has needed to kind of really take the next step. And that's, again, it's about what you've seen on the field that really kind of makes you change your mind about this team. If they can continue to put up offensive performances like that, and the defense can get anything close to that kind of performance on a week-to-week basis, it makes you consider what, going all in on this team and seeing what you can do a little bit this year.
Yeah, and Washington tried the Bill Belichick strategy of let's put two guys on CeeDee Lamb, which was Trey Amos and a safety for the most part, or Mikey Sandistro, their slot corner.
Yeah.
And then let's leave Marshawn Lattimore, their top corner, one-on-one with George Pickens. And Pickens toasted him. I mean, again, he had 82 yards in this game and a 37-yard penalty, which again resulted in a touchdown. That you might as well just tack that on to Pickens' receiving yards total.
Yeah.
And I think the play that to me that's like stood out is it's 2nd and 17 with 31 seconds left. The Cowboys are at their own 20-yard line, and George Pickens hauls in a 45-yard pass to put them in field goal range, right? And that was a perfectly thrown ball, but Pickens beats him right off the line of scrimmage. He makes an incredible adjustment to the ball. He gets out of bounds, and then the next play, we get the Javonte Williams run that takes him right down to the 1-yard line. You score a touchdown in a game that was, at the time, 20-15 going into halftime with Washington getting the ball. It's suddenly 27-15. And, you're feeling pretty good about going into, halftime with that score. There's just not many teams that have the luxury of having a number 2 receiver like this. And this is what we've been saying for a couple off seasons now, and why I thought the number 2 receiver was their biggest priority in the offseason, because it completely changes everything you can do on offense.
Yeah, and then I mean, honestly, just to continue that conversation, the pressure that this puts on their offense, right? They come out of the half, they're pressing. We get the fumble, and then we get the ball back, we score, and then an interception, and so. Actually, I don't think we scored. We had a punting, but still, the point being is that like you get through basically half of the third quarter, and they have 3 possessions, and they've turned it over on 2 of them, right?
It was a fumble in the first possession. The Cowboys scored a touchdown, and it's 34-15.
Oh, it was that one that they scored. Okay.
So it's 20-15, 34-15 in like 3 drives.
Yeah, in like the series of like 7 minutes of game time, right? Like, so that's how quick scoring offenses can put pressure on you. And the key being, right, you need a defense that can put that same kind of pressure on their offense.
Yeah, well, just an unbelievable game. And this is the luxury of having 2 receivers. Your ceiling is just so much higher on offense when you've got 2 number 1 receivers like this. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your Victory Monday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.